Yeah, well, I want to talk about REST APIs or also web interfaces with C++, made with with the CrowCpp project. Um, yeah, let's start with myself. I'm Frank. Yeah, I'm worked 20 years as a freelancer, mostly in embedded systems, software development, 6 years for Winco Nixdorf, 10 years, yeah, in the automotive industry. Uh, yeah, fun fact, 3 years ago, I was one of the co-founders of a company which is called Werkkooperative der Technikfreunde. Yeah, we did it for the shortcut. So you can find us there. Yeah, everybody is talking about new work. We try to do it. Yeah, actually, this year I started to work for the University of Münster. Maybe that gives stuff for a talk next year. Um, let's come to the topic. REST API, what does it mean? Yeah, the term was coined by Roy Fielding 30 years ago, uh, and it means representational state transfer. Yeah, it was the concept behind the HTTP client server interface. Yeah, at this time they decided to have no state between the requests on the server side. Yeah, that leads to some developments after it to add this feature again. Yeah, the terms they used resources. If you have resources and want to access this, you need a resource identifier. That is was known as URI, URL, URN. The representation is something like an HTML document, a JPEG interface, or some binary format which could be interpreted. You have representation and resource metadata, which is usually packed in a key value store, uh, which contains strings. The keys are described in the RFCs and the contents also. Yeah, also control data also in the metadata part of the protocol of HTTP. What they had in mind, you should also be able to manipulate resources through the different methods of HTTP. Yeah? This is something which is not so known anymore. Um, if you have a collection of items here, they have the customers as an example. You can use the post method to create new items. You could use the get method to get the data of an item, and there is also put for updating stuff, or patch. I never seen that it is really used, and there is delete for deleting an item in a collection. Yeah. Um, The same could be applied to the entire collection, but here it is not always easy to apply. You could take it for creating items. You could take it for reading a complete collection. The other ones does not really make sense, just in case you want to delete the complete collection. Yeah. How does it look like in practice? Yeah, I prefer using curl to send HTTP requests. Yeah, you see there this. Here you can add authentication. You have the URL. I think there is a -v for verbose, and yeah, it says something what it does. Yeah, then you see that there is the HTTP method send, the path part of the URL, and then the HTTP version. And after that, you you get the request metadata. In that case, yeah, the metadata contains the user agent, the acceptance of response types, and also an authorization header. In the get method, you have no data. Last but not least, you get back the response, which looks like this. In this case, also HTTP response code and no content length, because I have nothing in this one, and also the metadata as headers of the response. Yeah. Yeah, now let's come to the project. That's what I think is the mission statement of the project. They pretend to be the Python's flags for C++. Yeah, they have the main things they want to be fast. They want to have a header only library for easy use. They have as a feature also the type safe handlers, and what they have is WebSocket support. Yeah, website, GitHub, it's there. There you find also extensive documentation on it. I would add a few things to it. Yeah, they have this JSON support inside of the library. That means you just need one framework to do things for REST APIs. They have extensive documentation. In some places it could be better. And it's, in my opinion, easy to start with it and easy to play around with it. Let's come to the parts. Yeah, first thing, why is everybody talking about JSON? It's JavaScript object notation, so it's a subset of JavaScript, and this is what the other colleagues do on the JavaScript side. They simply evil it, and so as in a lot of cases, laziness is the reason why it's used in most REST APIs. I want to mention you are not limited to. You can use every other format if you want to have a more efficient encoding. You can use protobuf or whatever binary things you want to use. You just have to decode it on the client side. Yeah, it's how would it look like to use JSON to encrypt a class or a structure to JSON? It's like a dictionary, like a map. ID is a numerical value. Title and contact are optional strings. Yeah. The other side is similar. They have a function which loads this into a kind of a map, and you can use that. Then you can add checks if you need some keys, and in the end you assign the values of the keys to your structure. Yeah, I mean, this stuff works not completely perfect, because you convert the JSON result into an unsigned integer or into a string, which may not always work. That's why this try catches around it. Maybe I find a better way in future. What I said, you can, if you want to use other response types, you can always set different content types and can return whatever you want. Yeah, there is a lot of types already defined. You can find it in this database. Videos, audio formats, 3D things and stuff like this. Yeah, it's the other kind, the other part of the universe where 95% of our colleagues work. Yeah, this is the world of the IT departments. The library has some key parts. One of them is the app. This is the central interaction point with the HTTP server, the connections, and the router. This is the documentation for it below. I will come back later on this. Then we have the request routing, where we can say a route is an URI or an URL, also with a pattern inside, to which a handler is attached, where you define what shall be done if this is called. All the handlers are implemented as lambdas. The simplest route is a route with no parameters. You have here a macro for defining the route. It's the path part of the URL. You can define a list of a load HTTP methods. There could be more than one. And you have to return somehow data in the response. In some cases, you need the data from the HTTP request. So you can add this as a parameter, and you can use the data of the body to parse JSON from it. And what is also very nice, you can have this patterns inside of the path. Yeah, there can also be more than one. And you can map that directly to parameters of your lambda. That means you don't have to catch with regular expressions or something like this. The library is doing this, and you get the decoded ID in case everything is correct. Yeah, well, in addition, you could also use the query parameters from the path or also from the body. This is used in case of returning HTML formulas results. Okay. The next part, they took it over from um, Flask or blueprints. Blueprints are like a subset of routes, which are in one object. I mean, you can think about a user registration. You need it nearly always in different projects, so it makes sense to pack it in a separate class or component. What they also have, what is very nice, if you want to do asynchronous communication, they support WebSockets. Well, in a way, they reinvented sockets on top of HTTP. Also they use lambdas for handling the different types of events. It's also described in more details. Yeah, what it can be used for, you see it here. This is from sample code for chat system. Yeah, and if you send a message, you can forward it to all users. That means you can make asynchronous notification of all connected clients with messages of content you define. Yeah, there are two ways to deliver also static files. One is there is a base directory. Everything below that is also returned. If you put that into an URL, and the other way is you can return the contents of static files in a response. This is not for REST APIs anymore. This is the representation layer. This can be used for generate HTML pages. They have a Mustache engine included. Mustache is a standard for templating. Yeah, well, what you have to do, you load your template. You have to define a context which contains the key value store for the template replacements, and then you just say, okay, render it and send it as a response. Yeah, they support multi-part messages. That means you can also upload files. They have mechanisms to add so-called middlewares. These are things where events happen for all requests, before or after the specific message handler. That could be used, for instance, if you want to limit the set of valid IP addresses which are allowed to use. Yeah, this could be done with a middleware. There exist also some others, a session middleware for storing cookies, and one for the headers for cross-origin resource sharing. The library supports also optional components which you can switch on or off. One is HTTPS support using OpenSSL, and they use I think zlib for the HTTP compression. This is also, you can switch it on or off. Yeah, this is more or less what I have. Yeah, well, everything, every language which shall be shown for web development has to have a sample. In most cases, it's kind of a block which contains post. Yeah, I followed that pattern. You can find the sources on GitHub. Uh, it Yeah, you can build it everywhere. It works on Linux, it works on Mac OS, it works on Windows. Um, you just need to install the ASIO library before you um, start working with the example. Yeah. Uh, Maybe before I go into the example, the one thing I used, which is not yet in the standard, are this stood expected type. They steal it somehow from the Rust guys. It's a combination of a type and the type for the errors. This could be a string or an enumeration for an error code, and you could use that to return values from function. And not only the value, you can say, okay, I have an unexpected value, which has the error code as a parameter or the error string, and an expected value, which is simply the value. Yeah. I mean, you could use a pair for it, but this takes space for the type and the error code, and you need default constructors. In that case, you don't need to have that. Yeah, okay. Let's have a look at the example. I mean, it's the there are two parts. There is the part which contains the routes and the crow related part, and I have put the model part, means the posts and the list of posts, into a separate file. Yeah, here you see the handling for returning the list of posts. This is if you use an HTTP formula. Maybe I show it in the browser. It's running. Yeah, well, that's the outcome, the visible one. It's not the REST API. It's the web UI for it. Yeah, well, you can add a new post. You can edit one. You can delete them. That's what's visible. Yeah, add a new post means and you can send it. Yeah, well, you see it on the list. And yeah, you also can edit existing one. I hope we reach that one. Yeah, this is backed up by the code I have in the demo. Yeah, there is, in addition, you can also use, for the REST API itself, to test it. I used a shell script with curl calls. Yeah, it's mainly to have we have different routes. We have some for the web API and some for the REST API. Everything for the REST API is prefixed with API. You see, I use different forms of it here. First one is it adds an item to the posts. Yeah, well, then we have something to delete a post, and this is this one. And we have here, I made some tests using HTTP authorization too. Yeah, well, so means you have also the REST interface, which just returns JSON and no HTML pages and fancy stuff like this. So you have this in parallel in the actual source code. And if you look at the code, the more easier part is in most cases the are the REST APIs, because in most cases it's simpler to do so. Um, it's, yeah, in most cases, it's just doing things, forward it to the model class and return an error code or an OK in case of success. And in the model itself, it's, yeah, well, it's relatively simple. If you just have the list of posts. Posts contain an numeric ID and two optional strings, as I said. Um, yeah, I mostly use this from and to JSON um, to have an easy serialization from and to JSON. And then we have here the access functions for, yeah, getting all posts, create one, read one, update one, or delete one. Yeah, well, there is no magic in this implementation because it's the only thing you should have in mind. Everything can be run in parallel. Yeah, that means there are always can be always concurrent accesses to your collection of things. That's why I put this mutex in the beginning of the call. Yeah, here you see also the usage of the unexpected methods. Yeah, that means you can return an unexpected value, and in case of an expected value, can simplify that. You can simply return the value. So yeah, well, that was the live coding part, or the live, no, not coding. I don't want to start with it. The demo part. Yeah, well, I'm nearly at the end of the talk. It's, yeah, well, if somebody is interested, I have something about authentication with HTTP. The point is this authentication has to be on each request if you want to have it authenticated. And yeah, well, how it works internally is a little bit complicated because you have to manipulate headers. That's why I put that into this check authentication macro. Best solution I had. Maybe there will be better in future. Basically, if you don't pass this check, you will return from the function, and you will never reach the remaining part of the request. Yeah. So how does it work? It's just say, okay, I have to have a response because I have to manipulate the headers of it, and you just validate inside of it. And yeah, well, then comes some more complicated stuff which should be hidden. You check first if there is an authorization header. If this is empty, you can simply send back, oh, it's unauthorized, and set the authenticate header that says the browser it has to show this small window with the username and password. And yeah, in case it is there, then you have to check the content of the authorization header. Yeah, well, it's base 64 encoded, and yeah, in that case, it's separated by a double colon, and you can separate username and password. And in the end, you have kind of a breakout function which has to say if it is valid against your user database. Yeah, this will be implemented maybe differently on yeah, type of REST API. Yeah. Well, last but not least, what is not part of the package? We don't have HTTP2, and actually JSON does not support date attributes. Yeah, they use a special encoding in JSON, so this is out of the box not supported. There are several ways to solve that. One is the use of a library which is called Dage, which is from Howard Hinnant, the author also of Chrono. And the other one is using a different JSON library like the how was it called, Enloman library, or what else exists. Yeah, Crow does not support directly databases or object relational mappers. Um, if you need one of the existing databases, or if you want to have ORM-like structures, yeah, you have to look at the list of the awesome C++ databases interface. Actually, nothing is supported. Yeah, we have actually also no interface for sending and receiving mails or other stuff. It's just for HTTP. Yeah, so actually, and if you want to add other interfaces, yeah, where you have to add other libraries. Yeah, well, that was all I want to show. Website and starting docs are there. If you want to play around, the demo sources are also on GitHub. If you have questions, you can mail to me. Yeah, well, now I'm open for questions.
Yeah, thank you so much for that talk. And there are questions.
Very interesting library. So it seems like you're defining all of your both for your web and for your API in the same file, and it
Yes.
gets really big. Is there any way to like separate the concerns so that you have a file with your API and you have a file with your
Yes.
web?
One thing could be the usage of blueprints. Yeah, I mean, it was just a sample. I simply added the web calls to the existing REST API ones. I also have a separate thing. One possible thing is the usage of blueprints. I had a small sample here. Yeah, you could say, okay, a blueprint is a separate class, and inside of the constructor of the blueprint, you you add your blueprint routes, and in the end you just register the blueprints to the application. That means you can split it into components. Yeah? The other way, if you don't want to use blueprints, is you define functions and hand over the app as a parameter, and then you add your routes in the functions. This would be a way without the blueprints. And yeah, well, I mixed both things in one file, but you don't have to. It's normally you would maybe separate them.
You have a second question.
I'll go again then. So you showed that you have your authorization code inline in every call, but wasn't it supposed to be like a middleware that could
Yes,
handle it?
maybe.
Okay.
I don't have it yet. Yeah, I started at the end of the year to yeah somehow maintain the library, because I want to have a new release. There was no new release for more than 1.5 years, and I pushed it a little bit and started there. So because the new version is not depend on Boost anymore. That's why I want to have it. And from there I started to maintain things. Yeah, I didn't implement new things. I think the authorization could be put into a middleware.
Are there more questions?
Okay, so great job getting Boost out and switching to ASIO. So how much of a challenge is it going to be when there is suddenly a standard C++ networking library in what was it, 29?
Um, well, not sure. Depends on how it looks like. Yeah, I'm not that deep in the details. It should also work. You somehow have to transfer the creation of the HTTP connections and stuff like this, and the sending and receiving stuff to the network API. Yeah, I mean, well, face problems when they are there.
Well, I can say that switching from ASIO to whatever we will get based on send and receiver will definitely not be a trivial task. So that would be essentially a rewrite
Yeah, well, a rewrite of the core parts. Yeah, so that's
for the networking
Yeah.
parts. No, not necessarily
Yeah.
for all the rest handling and things like that.
yeah.
But so you're you're currently based on ASIO, so it's probably not a very lightweight thing.
No, it's not the completely light way to do things. Yeah, you end up for this. You end up with, I think it was roughly a megabyte of code and 16K of data, and therefore you are only dependent on a few other libraries. Yeah, you are just dependent on the libc and the lib system on macOS. Yeah, I mean it's different from what you see in other things. Yeah, if you use Python or PHP or whatever, yeah, the list would be much longer. So, and it may have also some positive effect for things like on AWS or Azure. Paul and me was also talking about they have this Lambda on this cloud systems. That means you pay per call and your code is always called. Yeah, means executed if somebody is requesting. And here you have much smaller startup time than on interpreted languages, hopefully. So
Are there more questions that we want to discuss right now? If that is not the case, then we'll have another quick coffee break and we'll be back in like it will be actually a pretty cool coffee break. You'll have to some time to catch up. Guess at 20 past we'll start with the next talk. See you there.